Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Pastor Paul, doing well.
Great, great. You sound good. I think everybody will let me know, but it sounds wonderful. We kind of put your phone to go directly in to get a good link and a good sound, like we do when we're at the studio. We didn't go to the studio tonight, Mike, because we were affected during our broadcast last night with getting ready. And your email kind of gave me a heads up to maybe just stay home and operate from here tonight. How you doing tonight?
Well, doing good, and communications are a big issue tonight. A lot of people have been having some communications issues, and believe it or not, sat phones have they've been going dark. Of course, a sat phone uses a up and down link with telecom network security protocols, and well, there's some experts in that area, and they could easily, interrupt that. So, and of course, Starlink is adding to their they have this their brand new constellation out there, a bunch of little tiny satellites by Elon Musk, and so we have a lot going on, and these things are easily hackable by hack teams, and these guys are. It's not good. It's not something I want to see with communications failing, because normally that means when you get a large scale, it's okay to have one or two systems go down, but when you start to have probing on multiple systems, normally it means that, from the traces, they know where it's coming from, but you have that's almost like a preeminent tactic to kind of confuse the populace with their own governments, to cause confusion and some other things that will go on right before a tactical move, and that's what nobody looks forward to. So,
All right, Mike. I mean, let's talk about China for a moment. I'm not going to ask you if China's the one doing this, but if China was planning a military tactical move, they would first probe to see if they had access to our communications. I'm not saying it's them, and I'll ask you in a moment, but China did look this week, 152 different crafts. Since you were here last Thursday night, China flew over top Taiwan with 152 different aircrafts, or I should say different aircrafts, meaning 12 H-6 nuclear bombers, a bunch of F-16s, and some others, plus some submarines were seen off the coast of Taiwan, not far. And also, while that's been going on, which is unprecedented, the United States has been doing military drills, very, very aggressive drills with the USS Carl Vinson, the USS Abraham Lincoln. We know the UK, the Royal British Navy's got an aircraft carrier out there. The Japan, its only aircraft carrier they own, is out there, and they're also the Australians, the New Zealanders, the Canadians, and others are out there participating. So those are unprecedented. We're in the South China Sea doing that. China's flying over top Taiwan's head. And the Pentagon tonight just announced that we have at least 24 special ops, whether they be Navy SEAL, whether they be Delta Force, whether they be some type of special op groups, been there for a year training Taiwanese on how to protect the homeland. But Senator John Cornyn of Texas said, no, there's 30,000 U.S. forces, roughly, he said, in Taiwan. So help me out, Mike. What's going on? Do we have 30,000 troops in Taiwan?
Oh, we have quite a few assets in that country, and if something were to happen because of these tensions, they would be they're probably looking at some sort of a Spec Ops CSAR operation taking place, or combat search and rescue, if it goes that far. Because you got to remember something: China they're the experts in the world at cloning anything they see, anything they get their hands on. Most of the technology, the aircraft carriers, a lot of land-based vehicles, they obtained some very high-tech equipment from hacking, right? These are the only guys in the world that can take an aircraft, hack the plans for the aircraft, and build it in 2 weeks. But nobody else can do that. They did that. They can do that. They continue to do that.
2 weeks?
And so in 2 weeks, for example, some of our utility helicopters in the U.S. Army. They got the plans for one. You may know it as a Black Hawk, but they got
Yeah.
the plans for that and built that in 2 weeks and test flew it in 2 weeks and no glitches or anything, right? This is with a full package and everything else. So these guys are experts at cloning anything they get their hands on. In fact, their Air Force and Navy, their submarines and everything else began as clones, clones from Russian equipment. Then, of course, they have surpassed Russia as far as technology, capabilities, air superiority, and they are directly matched with the USA. And a lot of people don't know that, which is why this conflict is one of those. It's not one of those joking conflicts. For example, we have our 22 and 35 series aircraft, right?
Yep.
They have a matched aircraft for that with the ASA system, ASA radars, with some other things on there. So we've seen their maneuvers, and trust me when I say that the U.S. was blown away to see that these guys could come out with they're working on or test flying, fielded a sixth generation aircraft. We're talking about a country that went from nothing to having particle weapons, right? Particle beam weapons.
Yep.
We're talking about a country that has these laser systems that have, they found ways to shoot lasers through just about anything, and they work by way of composite materials. So this is, that's one of those up in the air battles. And the U.S. is not certain, which is why we have missile guided destroyers out there. We have our mobile strike force units out there, and several other assets are out there, of course. Well, part of the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet is normally out there, doing that.
Yeah.
But we've added to that with allied units, both air, ground, underwater, and coordinated with lots of ready troops who are ready to hit the ground if necessary to do what they have to do. And China has matched that. We've got Chinese forces under the water, right? We've got them to our north of America. We've got them south of America. We've got them to the east of America and to the west of America.
Underwater? Are you saying they're underwater?
No, this is above, for example, in Canada, right?
Right.
In 2020, Canada, and Canada was very concerned about COVID-19 in 2020. Their military was working, or let's just say in communication with China concerning COVID-19. This all came from Canada. And they were they were on top of it. Nobody ever discussed that, right?
No.
But since that story should be out, it's pretty old. It's no problem talking about it. But these guys were ready.
You're talking about, Mike, Chinese forces in Canada. This has been out a while, like you said, but here's the deal. This has been repeatedly debunked by the mainstream media, saying there's no such thing. There's not, there's not 50,000 Chinese troops in Canada. It's ridiculous. This is a conspiracy theory. I mean, they beat everybody down that brought it up. You're sitting here tonight telling me, oh no, they're there.
Well, listen at the keywords. Normally, when you hear it from mainstream media, here's what they say: there are no Chinese troops at the border. That's what they say.
Okay.
Well, nobody's talking about the border.
No.
Right?
No.
Take the border out. You see, when you're looking at the media, they word things in a very, very careful
deceptive,
way.
Very deceptive.
And they'll always say, if you say there are Chinese troops in Mexico, they'll say, well, no, there are no Chinese troops at the border, right?
Yeah,
they do this all the time. Why? Because they don't really want to fuel anybody what they call conspiracy theorists. But you have honest ones, and you have the ones that are spirit-filled like yourself, that identify things that could be a probable, and so they always shoot it down. But the real deal is, you have all somebody has to do is look at the coordination between Canada and China regarding COVID-19, and that answers the question.
That really does. I mean, these people got arrested.
The question.
Yeah, we know they're the ones that probably invented it over in Canada and took it to Wuhan, to the lab. I mean, they caught one dude with 19 vials in his socks.
Yeah, one of the bad problems with COVID-19 is it was bounced around so much because it initially it began not as some nefarious thing, but they were actually looking at it saying, "Hey, this is in the SARS family. We've got to look at this." There were some U.S. Admirals that were very concerned about COVID-19. A lot of microbiologists, those who work at level 4 facilities, they were very concerned about COVID-19, and of course, nobody listened to them, right?
No,
Here in this country,
nobody
they kind of
listens.
shot it down, right?
Right.
And they're doing the same thing now because right now we have a public threat right now, and it's almost like people can't quite put this together. Well, I certainly do hope they do tonight, but more than that, I hope they're aware of it, aware of a real threat, how it can unfold, the uncertainty of it, and the timing could be almost immediate, right? The timing could be underway. In fact, it really could be underway. So hopefully people won't underestimate or get too prideful about things and really begin to see what's happening here because we have a dysfunctional governmental system. Let's go ahead and face it. We have a dysfunctional government. They can't do anything. They're at a stalemate. It's a gridlock in Washington right now. They can't do anything. This is on both sides. But I think President Trump made the most brilliant move when he was in power because he began to sweep the U.S. of all spies in technology, all spies in politics and all. And we're talking about China, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
everybody
Big
was
time.
saying, "Oh, he's best friends with China now." And this, well, why was he kicking out spies from China at the same time? You know why? Because he understands the business side of things, the negotiating side of things, and he also understands how what the culture of these people. If they make a type of declaration, they're not like the U.S., right? They don't get away from a declaration they make. They're going to follow through with it because they're going to save face. It's part of their tradition. Their entire country is going to be behind them. And believe it or not, this issue with Taiwan has been building over what 13, 14 years,
Yeah.
right?
Good. Yeah. At
And
least.
China this Saturday they flew what was it? I know what the news is reporting, but I will go ahead and say at least 60 um, flights took place
The total, yeah, you're right. The
right in
total,
that defensive zone.
the total was 152 over 4 days, is what's being reported right now, and including 12 H-6 nuclear bombers, 12 of them on Monday morning. So yeah, you're right, Mike, and so what concerns me when we hear Iran, they go on their rants and they're basically their threats are just ridiculous. Same thing with Kim Jong Un in North Korea. Yeah, that one day they may smack somebody, but really they talk a lot of trash and they really don't do much. But
Right.
I don't trust them. That's for sure. You've taught us that. But China, I never hear them say anything really. So for them to say these words, see whether see whether the People's Liberation Army will launch a targeted airstrike to eliminate those U.S. invaders. The chief of Chinese Communist Party news spokesperson said today. That's not a good statement. That's
No,
not it. That's
no, it isn't.
these guys don't play.
No, they're not. They're really not. They're not the same China we dealt with about 12 years ago, 13 years ago. They're a very different type of land. They're more modern now, and basically their equipment. In fact, their air power, as far as the missiles they make. And you just mentioned Iran, right?
Yes.
Um, but Iran, number one, Iran is in they're taking the lead as far as drone manufacturing. Do you know that most of their budget has been put toward drones? And we're not just talking about some little tiny drones. No, we're talking about drones that are armed to the teeth. And they were using some smaller probing drones, but that's not their main arsenal they have here. They copied one of our drones, right? Remember the drone that
Yeah.
landed over there and it only had one small dent? They actually copied this thing and it was caught on surveillance radar, right?
Yep.
Where nobody else could see it from the ground, but we happen to catch it from the air. How they did that, we don't know. This thing was penetrating airspace it shouldn't have. Um,
They captured
almost
it.
every day,
They
almost
captured it.
every single day. Um, Iran was penetrating airspace nobody knew about. Just think about that for a minute. How can Iran build a drone that penetrates U.S. allied forces airspace and nobody knew about it for
Right.
some years? We're not talking about for a couple of days, a couple of flights. No, the video footage captured was that was at least 5 or 6 or 5 years. I'll say 5 years. So you're looking at a country who's very recluse as far as and very private concerning what they're doing, but they're in Iran is Russia. Russia is Iran. China is supporting everything Russia does. These guys are constantly trading through proxy
Yes.
blueprints, plans, scientific results, and everything else. North Korea is being emboldened and buffed up and puffed up by China. China saying one thing in public, but in private, these guys have been reinforcing the infrastructure of North Korea. So what do we have here? We have a 100% another debacle is what we have. Why? Because when you get dysfunctional and you start cutting funding and you can't get the defense budgets passed and you start arguing about, you start giving out money to everybody for no programs, wild programs that nobody can really have accountability over. And then you cut defense budgets. What do you expect? We bought a lot of our guys home. That's good. It was not so good in Afghanistan. But the truth is, and the president turned that down. They were going to keep a troop level in that area in
Yep.
the Middle East because its strategic importance puts us right smack dab in the middle for observation and operation to stop armies from joining hands, right, and
Yep.
overwhelming some of the operations that have been ongoing in the Middle East. We don't have that now. We just don't have that now. So and then we have
Yeah,
China cutting up too
it's
soon.
one. Yeah, it's we're cutting off our nose by our face. It seems like, and it just seems to get worse and worse. Let me ask you a question. Facebook went down. You talked about communications in that email tonight. Facebook went down for 6 hours, along with Instagram and WhatsApp. Today, Wells Fargo Bank's telephone systems went down. We're hearing that other banks are having multiple problems. And it's as if there's something going on. Is this all related somehow to China? Or are we sleeping with the enemy? I mean, I know there's espionage that goes on, okay? All countries do it. It's got to be done for intelligence. But, remember when we had Congressman Stalwell out there in California and Feinstein and Pelosi and all these people had all kinds of folks who we find have directly involved with some espionage in China. I mean, are we sleeping with the enemy all the way to the top here? What's going on, Mike? It feels like everything's eroding under our feet.
Oh, yeah, it is. Again, we have a broken government. So what happens when you have two sides of government who have two different ideologies? One side believes have no contact with China. The other side believes, oh yeah, let's make best friends with China, right?
Yeah.
If you have a government like that, you're going to have one person undermining the other, right? You're going to have one guy working on plans and another guy working on a bill that outlaws those plans. And so you could actually have a person working with the enemy, right? By way of planning, preparing a bill or whatever the case is, before they have proper intel, and another guy saying, nope, don't ever do that. We're going to ban that from the US, right? So it's 100% not working. Everybody can see the result of it, right? If everybody can see the frustration of civilians all over the place. This financial situation that we're in, we face such a big change. It's going to blindside people. Number one, I know that the war mongering is one thing, but folks, get ready for communications disruptions for a while. And what I mean by that is a lot of activity takes place in space where you cannot see it. You can't see it. There's a lot of laser activity in the upper
Star
atmosphere,
Wars? Are you talking
right?
Star Wars,
There's a
Mike?
lot of laser activity in the upper atmospheres, and people cannot be witness to this. If a satellite goes down, I know Starlink is being activated, but I can tell you right now, Starlink has nothing to do with what happened today, because what happened today actually began a few days ago, right? Today, people may have noticed certain banks going down, but the same problem happened a couple days ago.
What
There
happened,
were
Mike? What
some cell
happened?
phone companies who had some issues, communications issues, and then Facebook, they go down over a protocol. They say, now I believe half the protocol, but the purpose, well, that opens up a whole new can of worms
Well,
because when
that's
you
what we
start
want to know.
discussing,
What's the purpose? Is it to put in some new security systems or undo some of their?
well, think of it this way: they switched the way. Let me explain this simply because we're
Okay.
dealing with the BGP, right? The exterior gateway protocol is what we're talking about here, and what that does, what a border gateway protocol does. Now, it depends on what level because it's not all the same across the board. Facebook is adding autonomy to their connections for everybody, anybody who accesses Facebook, right? A machine will now direct you efficiently to where your connection needs to go and to what is actually picked up on your thread, to who joins your thread. All this information is being corrected or collected, and it's being through autonomy. That means a machine, a learning machine, right, is handling your connection to somebody else, is handling how your computer connects with Facebook through the internet, right? Because you have, call them stations, connection stations,
Yeah.
all throughout the US.
Yeah.
And before you go to Facebook servers, you have to go to one of those connection stations. Then it goes to Facebook, right? It goes through security and all this.
Yeah.
Well, this border gateway protocol is supposed to cause it's an autonomous system, which means it runs by itself, and it is an exchange system, another expanded exchange system, but it is bound with artificial intelligence. All these systems are bound with AI. In order to justify a border gateway protocol, that means somehow you're linked in with the financial district somehow. Just telling you that right now. So, and it seems to be a connection with you have Facebook, Elon Musk. Elon Musk is going to be in the news next, so everybody ought to get ready for it. He's the only reason Bitcoin, right,
Yeah.
is worth so much. He's the only reason.
Yeah.
He's the reason. That began in 2000, I believe it was. Let me see if I get my dates right. I'll say 2000. What was it? 15. Bitcoin was worth $221
Yeah. It's
a
about what it was
share,
worth.
right?
Yep. Yep.
But now you're looking at it. It fluctuates between $45,000 and $55,000 per
That's
share.
right.
When he bought into Bitcoin, it went straight off the charts. He wasn't the only one. So he added value to this. Well, it just so happens that because of Elon Musk, there are certain protocols within the U.S. and around the world that kind of fine tune themselves to two companies, one owned by Elon Musk, the other one is Facebook. So you have these two big, ginormous companies, Facebook and Elon Musk, that are utilizing these brand new protocols with an AI, let's call it an AI driver, that's coordinating every single person out there who utilizes a cell phone or Facebook. Elon Musk covers cell phones and the internet. Everybody's, that, right? Everybody knows that, right?
Yep.
Not only spacecraft, but the internet, communications, satellite communications, and Facebook. Where do they cover the communications between those systems? Do you see a link here? I do.
Okay.
Anyway, so these guys are driving something, right? They're driving a change in this populace in between us. This outage was it seemed like it was totally convenient. But isn't it funny how testimony came out this weekend? I'm not going to say testimony. I'm going to say a whistleblower came out this weekend, and then the system goes down. They have a problem where only certain employees, because their cover story is that employees, nor could anybody else reach the servers. That wasn't true. But anyway, they go down for 6 hours. Not only did they go down, but certain financial institutions also went down where they own the same protocol because they shouldn't have been. The truth is, these guys are tied into, let's call it a new global financial system, right? A set of communications hardware that will govern the new financial system.
So you're saying
right?
that there's already a set of protocols and the technology to drive it for a new financial system, and that it's kind of being implemented right in broad daylight, and we don't know that.
You said it. And that's why you're hearing about Bitcoin all of a sudden. That's why you're hearing about regulation and taxes concerning Bitcoin all of
Wow.
a sudden. That's why you're hearing it.
Wow. So they are doing this underneath, right in front of us, under our noses, in broad daylight. Um, and meanwhile, they're shifting the value to a cashless society, let's say using Bitcoin and maybe some others, but certainly Bitcoin. And they're going to, at the same time, they're going to sink the value of the rest of the world currencies. Am I close?
Yeah, you're close. With the switch, social behavior was the big one. So everybody has a bank card,
Okay.
right? They're already used to not using cash. They're already used to that. They're already used to their money being given to them, not by cash,
Right.
but by a bank, and banks are digital.
Right.
That's cashless. Cash is becoming extremely rare. If you do a lot of commerce on the internet, there's no cash involved. And frankly, you're looking at 75% of the country. They don't use cash at all.
Right.
They just don't use it. Even, I did my own checks and balances with myself. I don't use cash. I haven't used cash in years. I just haven't used it. Right. So
Yeah.
we're already socially adapted to that. Right. That
Yep.
doesn't mean my securities are, I would never keep securities in the digital field because that's too much of a control system. But everybody's used to this. Everybody's used to they did something else. Not only are we used to using or having digital money, because that's what people have. They have digital money. And here's why that is such a controlled unit, is because you're trusting an entity in the world, right, to keep on record how much you're worth or how much you have, right? It's not backed
Right.
by anything. You really can, because if your data is gone, how are you going to prove you had that money in a bank?
You can't.
How are you going to do that?
You
And if
can't.
they can't reference your paperwork that maybe you have a printout or something, they can't reference it. You're not going to get it, and that happens to people all the time, especially with some of these new banks that don't quite fit the bill, and then people lose what they have. So we're used to that. The other part is, Pastor Paul, we're used to communicating online without any thought of recourse. Facebook. People say everything on Facebook. They tell you all their private matters, right?
Yeah,
As though it's
it
private.
seems like that's where they go and air out all their dirty laundry,
They do.
And why
And you
would
have to
you
think of
do
it this way.
that?
Think of it this way, too. This is just our world. When you send a text message, you expect that text message to be private, correct?
Right.
It's not.
No.
It's not private. But that's our mindset, is that it's private. Nobody can see this. Just me and the person receiving it. That's wrong. You agree to a end users. There's an end users license agreement type on your phone, and you agree to it. You agree that the information you put in that phone belongs to a machine, can be utilized by a machine. Well, we have artificial intelligence now, which means a machine can learn about you just like I can or anybody else can. And frankly, everybody they know all your habits and everything else. They fine tune advertising. They put up by, some sort of disclosure you can't read. So we've already been infiltrated because we gave over a type of sovereignty to people we don't even know, and trusting them to make better toys. If that
Yep.
psychologically, right?
Yep.
Nobody ever thinks of it that way, but
No.
that's precisely what we did. And it's not going to be difficult to change the financial system, because all you have to do is say, folks, well, your bank has just merged with so and so, and you have to go ahead and agree to these terms and conditions if you want to continue to get your paycheck, right? That
Yep.
easy. Now, how many people read all the terms and conditions of their
Nobody.
banking institution? Well, there you go. We trust the bank to do the right thing. We trust the bank to follow constitutional rights that we have. Unfortunately, that's the corporate world. That's something very different, right? And so they don't have to follow that. They become a sovereign entity by themselves, and can, in truth, if you agree to something, you can give up your rights when working with that corporation. And that's exactly what has happened. That's what's
Yeah,
happened. So
we've been
there it
hijacked.
goes.
We've been hijacked
Yes,
ourselves. Well, as a matter of fact, the government is supposed to follow. We've been trusting the government to follow the Constitution, but now we know they're not following the Constitution. Freedom of speech gone, and even some of these other things. And I don't want to get into them because we're very censored. Again, I can't even get into some of the stuff because of censorship. I got to do it on my own web page when we get it done. But because of this, we heard the president say, it's not about freedom. It's not about your personal rights. Folks, this whole thing called America is a republic for the people, of the people, by the people. It's all about freedom and your personal rights. But do you know what's happening? What about HIPAA laws? Where'd they go? And Mike, what about the fact that people are being turned down for medical care because they didn't follow a certain protocol? And I have to be careful here. In other words, you're saying now even the financial institutions have been completely hijacked by an AI technology system. And at any time, a social credit score could be, because they're watching everything you buy, everything you eat, everything you buy, your habits, your mentality, what church you go to, things you like to say and do and whatever, good, bad, or indifferent. They know who you are, maybe better than you know who you are. And when they get ready, they can say, here's the protocol. If you don't follow this diet plan we give you, we're cutting you off from this, that, and the other. Maybe future benefit, maybe your Social Security check. Who knows what they're going to do? So is that what you're saying, that we've really walked ourselves into a trap and there's no way out?
We did. We wanted the toys. We wanted the prestige. We wanted to, all the fashion and everything else. That's exactly what we got. And we signed over our own personal rights to get it. And that's essentially but now we're facing a time, Pastor Paul, when the true split comes. Okay. And here's part of that true split is you have a lot of people out there frustrated right now, right? They're frustrated.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, if you get down to the core of the problem, no matter what they have done, the core of the problem is they do not have trust in the current system.
No,
they just don't have they think it's broken. They think that the people behind it are supporting a broken system. And they really like the ways of simplicity, right? Yes. That you can actually see, like you said, with the Constitution, it's been amended so many times, it's just not the Constitution anymore. No. It's not the original Constitution. No, it's been altered. It's been changed. And every right is under certain conditions. Yep. And if you don't meet those conditions, you don't have those rights. But the people we've just given that stuff over, but America's split right now. And that split are those who really want to see that the America with the family units involved, right? Because there's show me a family unit. You don't even see representation of a family unit on family television anymore. Is there such thing as family TV?
There's not.
You just don't see it.
There's no family unit any longer on any television program, movie, sitcom, TV series, whatever. It's always I gotta be careful. Always a distorted, perverted, and messed up family. There's no such thing. They call it modern family. No.
Oh.
Okay.
You know what? That's one reason, Pastor Paul, I can't even touch the stuff they're making these days. It is sickening. They're cramming it down your throat every single hour. But anyway, you have that portion. Those people have an ideology, and this ideology is everything is permissible so long as we have peace. That's called compromise.
Yeah.
That's not peace. That's deadly.
That's what do you call that? That's appeasement. That's the appeasement compromise.
Appeasement, yeah. And that is deadly. That destroys. That's destroy. It destroyed the family unit. Yep. It did, because some of the family shows were usurped, and slowly but surely they changed, they mutated, and people became immoral. Well, they already know that the Constitution does not work unless you have moral individuals who are in charge of keeping the Constitution the way it is. But we have an immoral set of people out there with an immoral set of values, and it just does not work. So the split comes in. You still have folks with morals, and they're ready. It's amazing to me, though. It seems like a switch went off in the last month, and they're standing up everywhere ready to fight. They're saying no more of this.
Yeah, you can feel the pushback. You're seeing.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you hear really it in the sporting events. You hear the chants. You're seeing it at the school board meetings in California, in different places. You're going to see it in the restaurants. You're going to see the pushback when people are being told you can't do this, you can't have that, and you can't do that. People are starting to say, you know what, we're tired of this. And you're right. And I think that's why you see fences around the Capitol. That's why you see some of these other security situations, because I think that I think the critters in the swamp are a little nervous that the swamp, the swamp. But who's those guys in Louisiana that go gator hunting down in the swamp? The swamp people. I think they're afraid that some of the swamp people are going to be, the Cajun Navy's going to show up and start hunting the critters in the swamp. Anyway, let me ask you a question, Michael, because there's so much going on here that I want to get to. Some stuff you said last week. You said, we might be talking about the Sand King's deputy walking or making his move. Can we touch that tonight?
Yeah, I'd say, you know what? I'm not going to mention a name because it won't be necessary, but this guy is shaking the dirt off his clothes, right? He's coming out of the sand. He's shaking the dirt off of his clothes. Deputy's coming first before the main guy comes, but he's starting to he's going to make his rounds in the Middle East. He's going to make his rounds. The Middle East right now is poised to, you have, I hate to say this, but you have too many people poised to really right now to attack Israel. Right now. And we're not talking about just people, sitting around and they could do it. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about an event that will most certainly take place. And I know it's a bold statement, but too bad.
Are you talking about an attack? Are you talking about an attack on Israel, possibly?
It's gotten to the point, Pastor Paul, that last week when we were talking, Israel was in talks also. And they were trying to desperately find a solution. They've got to make a move quick. Yeah. They don't have another month. They just don't. They don't have another month. So we're talking about them doing a premature assault, and they're trying to get support to defend themselves, because with some countries, the only way they can defend themselves is to strike now, right? To hit certain infrastructure centers so that they won't have that threat to contend with. Or it won't be some long drawn out.
It sounds like a preemptive strike to protect themselves, but they don't want to do it if they don't have any blessing from anyone else in the world.
That's right, because how are they going to think of it this way? They get a lot of their fuel from us. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
Now their backup is Russia. Right?
Yeah.
Iran is not an appropriate backup. You have people right now in Lebanon burning the fuel from Iran because Hezbollah is distributing fuel to everybody.
Yep.
And those people over there are getting happy about it. Now, keep in mind that Russia still has a naval port in Tarsus, right?
Yep.
So they still have Syrian troops. So I think it's a lot of Russians north of Israel right now. It's a lot. So you have all these individuals around them, and tensions are very high there. You have the U.S. out of the way in tactical positions, so we can no longer hold.
Right.
Hold. We don't have backup for certain naval ports, which is very important because Russia can match us in missile offense and defense in that area. But air superiority is going to also be a problem because they're spread out too much, and come to find out, Iran has dispersed these small little, they have a lot of air coverage over there that Russia has provided them so they can fly their drones almost unimpeded, right? When an Israeli fighter looks behind him and a drone is behind him, right? And it's an Iranian drone that's a jet flying just as fast as he is, something has gone wrong, which means
that's crazy.
Iran has gotten technology from Russia, from China, from North Korea, they have some of Pakistan is quickly changing. They're changing so fast in Pakistan, it's becoming an unknown variable.
So are you saying
I can only imagine.
Are you saying Iran has been sandbagging us? In other words, they got some really great technology that they're holding back, hiding away.
Yes, they do. Yeah. Yes, they do. And it's starting to come out because they were looking. This is what Israel is trying to tell everybody, but they refuse to publicize, right? The Iranian drones that they have are, in fact, they have Chinese counterparts. In other words, some of the technology was developed in China over the years, right? That is stealth technology. We're not talking about some propeller operated drone. No, we're talking about something comparable to you're talking about a fifth generation drone. Okay, the same type that fly with our F-22s and F-35 series aircraft. The drones that fly with those, they have to be fifth generation. They have to have some of the same tech, if not greater, so they can complement some of our F-series aircraft. So Iran has that same thing. They've been working on this stuff, and come to find out, they spent most of their money, despite sanctions, on drones, and enriching uranium, which nobody can pin down except for those that Israel has sent out to go find. So
Right.
we have a severe problem, and it seems like this night, this week period, everything is starting to ignite slowly but surely.
What's more dangerous position? Is there which is more time bomb ready to go off?
China.
Is Israel being attacked by Iran? I mean, excuse me, Israel doing a preemptive strike on Iran, or China making a military move to take Taiwan back?
China.
China.
The reason I say China is because China knows for a fact. China knows what they have. China is you have to understand that the Chinese civilians, right, are almost like DARPA. I know nobody wants to admit
Like
that,
DARPA?
but we're talking about civilians. Think about this. All those high-tech aircraft, if anybody goes to the internet, you start look up some of the aircraft that they had 3 or 4 years ago in China. You got to remember that corporations are responsible for the electronics that go in these products. Some of the masterful architect that goes into microprocessors, things like that. Some of those designs came from China. And what we have been doing as the U.S. is we take our designers and brightest minds, we build the architecture for chips like Intel, and then they'll get one of these guys from China to actually look at it. They'll improve upon it like 30 years in one night. They'll improve a chip 30 years in one night.
What?
With one guy, right? And then we say, okay, thank you. So we have that. We go ahead and build it. These guys, they go to school 7 days a week.
I
right?
know.
So
I know.
they grew up in an educational environment steeped in culture, and so they're constantly about improvement.
While we got our students running around,
barbecues,
yeah,
and protesting socks.
Yeah,
is what we do.
Yeah, and then we wonder why we're slipping and sliding and we're losing ground, and we're sleeping with the enemy, and it's crawling everywhere, and we're dumbing down our next generation. We're taking we took the Bible away from them. We took prayer out of school. We messed up the family. We've screwed up the education system. We're poisoning their minds, poisoning their bodies, and poisoning their spirits, the Spirit of God within them. I mean, we're like Rome on fire, aren't we, Mike?
We're in trouble. And Pastor Paul is about to say that. Can you see the relationship between when I was small, everybody knew about Sunday.
Yeah.
Everybody knew about Sunday. Everybody knew about a minister. Right? When a minister came around, you had to straighten up.
Yep.
Everybody knew that, natural respect. And it also, at that same time, people had a drive about them, right? As people forgot about God, their drive went away, and we became arrogant and prideful. Now, as a result of that, darkness is waking up in this country, and around the world, but it's waking up, and this is why we see such division in the White House, and we're about to see a brand new paradigm in the White House.
What?
I mean, a brand new one nobody has seen before.
Whoa.
But this is why we're starting to see this, Pastor Balls, because when's the last time you heard about somebody respecting a minister? No, that's not what they're doing. They're throwing rocks at churches. They're drinking. You have drunks on the churches, on the steps of churches and things like this. They have no respect anymore. But now they're not getting away with anything, right? Because we know by reading the Bible this stuff would happen, but it's getting worse. It's getting highly immoral. It's going to be a matter of time. I know this is disgusting to say, but the Democrats know the bills they desire to pass. Now, this is not a Democrat-Republican thing I'm saying here, but there are certain bills. There's a mentality Democrats have, right?
Yep.
A mentality. Okay. I'm just shooting it to people straight. And what their mentality is, let people do anything and everything like Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
Yep.
So long as we can be responsible for the good stuff. So it's almost like they're looking for the praise. They want people to continue to come to them, right?
Oh, yes.
But that's not the way.
No.
Because what they have done was they said, go ahead and let that child be whatever way he wants to be. Go ahead and let this group over here, go ahead and let them erect that church for Satan, and let's pass a law so nobody can touch it. Right? Because if they will not pass a law to protect Christians against any invading force, knowing that Christianity is the primary faith of this country.
It is.
Right? But if you were a stranger coming to this country right now, you wouldn't know that.
No.
You wouldn't know that.
No.
You go on the street, you wouldn't know that. You just wouldn't know. And that's the identity of America left when we quit respecting the living God, the
Yep.
Father. No, yeah, I don't even hear that word Jesus on the street. I
Oh
used to hear that
no.
all the time. Even one time when I was small, a drunk was on the street, and I remember my cousin said one of those choice words, and the drunk turned around and said, "Have respect for yourselves." And this guy was drunk. He said, "And go to church. You
Right.
change your life. Don't end up like me." But you would hear that a lot, right?
Yeah, you
You don't
did.
hear that now.
You
You
did.
don't. You don't hear it now.
No.
You dare not. If you go out there and a drunk approaches you, you get nervous because you don't know if he has a gun or not.
No, you don't
Just
know what's going
today,
to happen.
listen to this. Just today, some guy on a motorcycle was going up a highway and randomly shot and killed some people on a highway. Why is this happening every single day randomly?
Right.
It's a heartlessness that's happening among this darkness is spreading, all because we have turned away from the living God.
Amen.
And if the last stronghold, the last point of strength, the last column that's holding this country up, because make no mistake, this country is not held up by how smart it is. This
Nope.
country is held up by the grace of God only, by His
Amen.
mercies. I've seen the inner workings of things. This country should be kaput, but it's not, because the Lord is preserving His people.
Right.
Now, as far as the sinful people in this nation, if there were no Christians in this nation, Pastor Paul, this nation would be gone
It would have
already.
already been gone, Mike.
Be
You're
gone.
exactly
It's being
right.
preserved because of us.
Yes, it is.
But my goodness, and it's
But
getting
you
worse.
notice something, Mike. It's being preserved because of us, no
Yeah.
question. But we're hated. We are hated now. We're being almost hunted. It's
Yep.
it's the cancel culture and the whole 9 yards. But it's beyond that. We're literally despised, and Jesus
Yeah.
said, "You will be despised and
That's right.
rejected." And you'll be, and it's not you they hate, but it's me, he said, for my name's sake. But boy, I tell you, you're right. It's I've never seen such a society in such a short time, Mike. I mean, look, I'm a baby. I'm going to be 60 in December. I remember living in the 60s and 70s and how, that might even been a
So
revolution, a period of time,
Yeah.
as far as moral revolution. But it was still, there was families, there was
Yep.
a social norm, there was
Yep.
acceptance. You didn't you didn't mess with other people's kids, and
No.
everybody. This is completely, and like you said, there's no respect at all for the
Yeah.
house of God or for people or Christians. Matter of fact, we're hated. We're being fired from jobs because of our faith. We're being
Yes,
run
we
out
are.
of everywhere.
Yes,
So
we are.
I mean, all right.
It's an absolute assault.
Now we can see this all happening. There's a couple more things I want to throw out there right before time gets away. I mean, you've been on a really good roll here of truth, of everything. We had another volcano eruption today, Stromboli blowing again. We've got the Canary Islands are still going. Kilauea is still happening in Hawaii. We got earthquakes, 25 people killed, 300 injured in Pakistan this morning. Maybe more than that are dead. We can see these things. And now China came out this week, which I thought was really interesting, and said, oh, by the way, there could be as many as 1 million asteroids heading in our direction. We got to figure out a way to deflect them, shoot them down, do something. And then we just heard that on November 23rd, SpaceX and NASA are working together in collaboration to fire 2 satellites into the air, 2 rockets, to go straight toward a asteroid. One is going to run right into the asteroid and try to deflect it or try to nudge it. The other one is going to be filming the whole thing. Well, why would you know how much money it costs to send those up there, Mike?
That's a lot.
If we don't
yeah.
have any danger,
So-
which I've been constantly been beat up by all these media people saying Begley's a conspiracy theorist, he's a fearmonger. I'm just asking questions. Why are we going up there playing like Bruce Willis and knocking an asteroid around if there's no danger of an asteroid? Mike, how close are we? These guys are ramping up the approach. Are we going to get hit sooner rather than later?
Yeah, we will. I know a lot of people are looking at Apophis, right?
Yes.
People may as well forget about Apophis, because if it comes back in the date they say it's coming back, right?
Yeah.
We're not. I can tell you right now, nobody's going to think about Apophis. Nobody. We're going to have our own set of issues here right now, and these countries are ramping up to defend themselves and protect their people from. In fact, CERN, part of CERN, some of their jobs, I wish that people would discern it a little bit better. But you got to think of something. When you invest a lot of money into something, it's going to be for primarily three things. One is fuel, right? They invest a lot
Okay.
of money in fuel.
Yep.
They invest a lot of money in defending populations,
Oh yes.
right?
Yep.
And they spend a lot of money in war.
Oh yes.
Okay, that's what they do. So CERN is operating from money that's spent to defend this planet. That's why NASA, everybody's involved with CERN. So much so, there's a secondary platform in space, right? For
What?
CERN.
Whoa,
This
whoa,
thing reaches, this thing is global. CERN is global. And what they're doing is for real. But they're also doing something else. And it's kind of hard to talk about, but they're doing something else.
whoa.
I'll say this, Pascal. People ought to get used. They better get used to things really spiraling upward regarding incidences. For example, meteorites coming crashing into the earth, they better get ready for the unexpected. They may as well get mentally prepared and say, hey, I may potentially really have to deal with this environment, right? There are too many. I know for a fact,
Well, did you hear?
some
Did
rich
you?
people out there, some rich folks out there, Pascal, warning people that in 2022 they might want to be ready. You're going to hear this echoed a lot. It's going to be echoed a lot.
Well,
Now,
did
I
you
didn't say
hear?
anything.
Did you hear President Biden? And he was talking about the economy, but he said, and he said a meteor is going to crash, is incoming and going to crash. And then he said,
Yeah, he was confused.
but is there something? I understand he was confused, but is there something he knows that he gets it confused? And yeah, he knows about a meteorite, but oh yeah, he was trying to talk about the economy, or is that just?
Yeah, well, you discern that pretty well. That means normally when people do that, they're thinking about one thing, but they're trying to read a script about something else,
Right.
right? So there you go.
Yeah.
There's a big concern for meteorites. So folks ought to get ready for that too, because we're forget about meteor showers. We're going to have a meteor storm, right?
Yep.
And when we have fires this winter, um, that's they're going to run out of excuses saying we don't know what happened here. This was some hikers and this, that, and the other. Speaking of volcanism, where you're talking about volcanism,
Yeah.
my prayers now more than ever, they've always been towards Italy. That somebody warn those folks, but they're just not doing it, Pascal. So let me go ahead and say it tonight. The volcanic activity in that area, right,
Yep.
is going to cause something that most people look for in another place. You're talking about a volcanic landslide. What do you think would happen if a big chunk of that landmass near Italy fell into that water? What do you think would happen
Would
to them?
create a massive tsunami.
There you go. So they might want to get ready for that also, because the activity of magma is incredibly high. The same thing is happening in Northern California, Washington State, and all those places. You have magma that's just shooting off the charts as far as temperature wise, right underneath them. That entire ancient chain of volcanoes is lighting up left and right.
What?
And
No,
so they're going to have an
nobody
issue
knows
too.
about that, Mike. Nobody's saying
Well,
it.
they might want to start tracking that one, because they're going to have problems with that too, Pascal. We're going to get into the time where some of these volcanoes sitting next to the water start ejecting large portions of themselves down into the water. You're looking at sheer breakoffs from that pressure, that magma. Everybody should understand that the magma is not stopping. Whatever the influence is externally, and I'm saying this so people don't get confused, whatever this influence is, right, is going to continue. Remember when I said our sun is going to be out of season? You remember that?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
everybody said, oh, yeah, it's going to be calm. And I said, no, it was not going to be calm. And then we have all this stuff happening to the sun. But why? I know a lot of people, they can discern things and pick up on things, but I'm going to help them out just a little bit. What's been happening to the sun will likely alter because of celestial changes. The sun is going to be directly affected. We're going to be directly affected. So don't be surprised at a massive color change in the sun.
Okay, but what's going to cause this to affect? Who's affecting the sun?
It's being overwhelmed. It's being overwhelmed. Externally. Externally.
Not
Outside
internally.
of our,
externally.
not internally. Externally. We have external radiation, particles, waves, and everything else pulsing into us. It's changing our sun. It's affecting us, right?
Yeah.
We have a problem right now with our magnetosphere that we have a buffer outside the magnetosphere, right? It's full
Okay.
of vortices. They're disappearing, right? They've been
Okay.
there for a long time. They normally do not publish this, but they're going to have to cover themselves somehow. They're going to have to come out with some report saying, "Ooh, a scientist just found so and so," when they didn't. But they know that that buffer is just dissolving. They know it's dissolving, meaning the Earth is becoming overwhelmed. The gamma radiation the Earth is emitting is also increasing. And folks, I'll say it again: when you start to see auroras where you should not, that means the atmosphere is just totally active, and it'll be pretty for most people, but it'll be a deadly sign of what's to come. That means an incursion is on the way. That means our atmosphere is going to be completely disturbed, right? And folks ought to get used to ash. They ought to have stuff in their homes to deal with ash. They ought to learn about ash and what it can do to plant life in themselves if they breathe it. Um, they better get ready to deal with high winds and cinders, because people are not calming down in the world. The spirit is changing in
Ash
people
and
in this
cinders. Whoa, whoa,
world.
whoa, whoa. Is this where you told me 8 years ago, Paul, Pastor? You might want to understand that the
Yes,
world's
sir.
going to have to wear masks, not the little mask we're wearing right now. Those kind of masks, those big
Lots of cinders. Lots of
cinders.
cinders.
Is that
Lots of
meteor
cinders.
cinders, or is it
That'll mostly be from the onset from volcanism. That'll be from volcanism, and
volcanoes causing this?
there is no safe place. Volcano smoke is heavy. That's heavy stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody has seen the ejections overseas and how high it goes. There's something called a black volcano, right? We only have several on the earth, black volcanoes. What they eject fastballs so incredibly thick because of the composition that it hovers no more than about 20 feet above the ground. And when it starts flowing, because it's incredibly heavy, it by itself it's like a tsunami in the air, right? That's what it's like, tsunami in the air. And it will carry hot materials, because those clouds can be, 2 to 300 degrees, sustained heat. They're very heavy. It's hard to breathe in that atmosphere. And you better believe we're going to have these, they're called black volcanoes, going off. Now, I know that people probably have not heard of that. They probably haven't heard of
Is
them,
the
but
oxygen
we're going to
level?
experience.
Is the oxygen? Is the
O2
oxygen?
level,
Yeah. Is it going
will
to
it go
get?
down?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, with the volcanoes we have now, we're having a problem with the atmosphere already. The air quality in a lot of places has dropped severely because of the ash. But something else is happening too. Radon poisoning is a real issue right now in the U.S. Right,
Yeah, it is.
um,
It is.
and it's rising because we have a higher evaporation point in certain items in the earth. This water is flowing, carrying radioactive materials in that water. Not enough to fry you, but the levels are becoming about 2 times higher than what they should be. And radon is directly related to lung cancer. It will destroy your lung. It'll make you sick as a dog. You'll walk around and you can't breathe and everything else. So,
What about the
it's
red
becoming a
dust?
real
What
problem.
about the red dust? Is that going to get
Well,
worse?
that's inescapable. When people start saying that, they will. The red dust will be a slow buildup, right? You'll notice it on your windows as you're cleaning your windows. You'll notice it. We're not talking about Sahara dust either. We're talking about red dust.
You're right.
It just so happens that when this stuff comes in, though, your taste buds are going to continue to change. People are going to start noticing their taste. They should already notice this, that their taste buds are being altered. Foods taste a bit different
You're
as
going to
our
taste
atmosphere
bad.
changes.
Stuff going
But
to
it'll
taste.
just be different. To some people, it may be bad, but it'll be different. Food will taste different. Um, and this will happen more and more as we continue to go along, right? But I do know this, Pastor Paul, I do know this in truth. Um, Christians who have knowledge in these areas as far as health and protection against them, it's a good time for people to listen to Christians concerning
Yeah.
these things. Zinc can add taste back into your tongue. It can
Yeah.
also fight off diseases. A simple multivitamin can do the trick. B12 complex, all this. That these are natural remedies, not these, the medications people try to put you on. They do their best, but their doctors are making money and they're getting pharmaceutical kickbacks. I could go on about pharmaceuticals, but I'm not going to open that can of worms,
Okay.
right? Can't do
Yeah,
that.
not it's
But
not
anyway,
not here. Not the,
but
let me get the other
Christians
platform.
now,
Let me get get my website revamped, and we'll do a live show on it, uncensored,
oh,
no
you know
holds
what?
barred.
You may not want that one on the stuff you can get over the counter. If you knew what it was made of, you wouldn't get it.
Oh, yeah, don't tell me, Mike. I'm having a bad day.
I just,
Too
I don't
much.
trust
I
pharma,
can't.
so I'm
I can't deal
biased.
with it. Well,
Yeah, I don't trust pharma.
uh, Mike, it's all intense. It's intensifying, isn't it? And this
It is.
thing about meteorites and the dust and the cinders and the red dust and the particles and the sun being altered, this binary system that's shaking the whole world up, shaking the whole universe up, shaking the solar system up, and the volcanism and everything, the earth. Jesus Christ is coming. Let's be honest. Time is running out, Mike, isn't it? Judgment Day's coming.
It is, Pastor Paul, and we're passing from talking about it, right?
Yeah.
To having people come on your guests come in there and they text and they say, how do we deal with this? How do we deal with the red dust? The smoke is killing us. How do we deal with this?
So we need
We're
to listen to
closer
Christians,
to
because
those
Christians,
days.
like guys like you, are able to say, okay, look, I'm a Christian. You guys are Christians. You guys want to know the truth. I can help tell you the truth. And because we have a prophetic insight and some intellectual and intel insight, we can then discern, according to the Bible, what's coming and when it's coming, and prepare the people. Can you imagine not having clueless of what's going on and not knowing what's coming? They're going to get so blindsided. The earth's going to get blindsided, Mike, aren't they?
They are. And the word, like me, I'll say things based in love, right? They do not benefit me, but they do benefit the other people if they listen. And I know for a fact it takes 5 to 8 years to prepare for certain things. And when you get over that threshold, it's too late to prepare. Wherever you are, that's where you're going to be. Yeah. So a Christian's advice is not going to be selfish. It's going to be for the people to really, it's advice given in love, right? Yes. And it's the Lord is moving us to sound doctrine because He's showing us quite a bit. Quite a few things are manifesting. Yep. And just look for more manifestations. And don't be surprised. This would not be the time to say this is impossible or that's impossible. Folks, we sit at the brink of war potentially now and any day forward. I mean, a real conflict can actually kick off at any moment now. Tensions are that high. It's that real. Trillions of, well, not trillions, but billions of dollars have been spent in the last 2 days just to get the fuel over there to some of those ships. And as we decay in our morals, the standard person here, this is a Christian's time to shine. Pastor Paul, you said they hate us, they're after us. That gives me more, the more darkness comes against me, the more I want to stand up. It's the truth. And it's like a motivator. It doesn't destroy me. It makes me want to stand up even more. That's right. And I find myself doing bolder and bolder things. So I think every Christian who is true to Christ, as these times get darker, we're going to get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter.
I love it. Mike, are you serious? What are we going to talk about next Thursday? Is there something you think we might be going to be discussing?
Well, other than this certain communications issues, right?
Right.
I really do believe that we're going to discuss, well, I hate to say it, we got more policies about to pass, right? We're not talking about anything concerning money either. And one new revelation, one new global revelation, I think you'll pick up on that. In other words, the world's going to find out the dirty secrets of some things, right? So we're going to
get a new global revelation.
Oh yeah.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, I'm looking for that by Thursday. And Pastor Paul, we have a track record. Something always happens on Thursday. Now, have you noticed that?
I noticed that. You think they're listening?
I hope they are.
I do too. Thanks, Mike, for being here. We'll see you, Lord willing, next Thursday.
God bless you, Pastor Paul.
God bless you. Keep on the firing line, brother.
Amen.
Amen. Mike, brother, world, folks.